as Chris tries to regain composure, we are indeed back. How are we doing, boys? We are going to look at this Brentford game because I specifically, I don't know about you two. I assume you both do as well. Was very enthused by this game. I think, especially a lot of the positional stuff that we'd wanted was on the pitch, especially with Tomiyasu.
But weirdly, look, I've got extra happiness because score correct. Your boy is back again.
You got lucky. You got lucky.
Yeah.
Very
lucky.
Genuinely, last 10 minutes was like just score. I don't know. I can't.
So that puts me up top. So that puts me up top on the table.
Put him up top.
Yeah. Well, back to the usual king position.
I'll bring that at the end of the ace.
Look, if you're coming for the king, you best not miss. But at the end of the day, not
you
just that. I think the Brentford game was weird because I saw a lot of stuff on the timeline that people were pissed, and I really didn't understand it because from just a broad perspective, look, we've got a B/fringe team. We experimented with multiple different positions for different people. I don't think there was any chemistry in terms of those players that were playing that had played together or a partnership for greater than 3 games. So you completely kind of change the 11, and then you give it a strange academy debut that nobody really foresaw coming. I mean, people.
And the weirdest thing was it was kind of like the one you'd never expect. Like I'd expect surely.
It had a very Alex Iwobi to it, right? Charles Taylor Jr. is very underrated, and everybody here at Bopped and as Bop fans knows we've spoken about Charles Taylor Jr. over a year ago on our youngster kind of pod or a youth pod. So, like, in a sense, it's not that it's surprising that he was in. He's very criminally underrated. I think he had a very strong start to the season, and I think, like you said, Karan, like the issue is more people expecting that others that are closer to the first team didn't get chosen. But I think it was more of a case of, listen, you're training well and we're going to reward that training. And of course, he kind of took his chance, I think, in training more than this game. I really must say he was completely non-influential, not totally a part of his own, but Ben White refused to pass to him. And so it was a case of him just being on the periphery, but maybe not his fault. But still, just to kind of tie off that point, we had a B team against Brentford's first team that were excellent at home, who, by the way, last season had huge giant killings in the top 6. This was not an easy game. And despite no Tony, have actually been performing better attacking-wise without Tony. And so this is a team that is no joke, not something to really...
B team is generous because I think when
very fringe.
When we saw the lineup, a lot of people were stressing. I was very comfy. Obviously, we all predicted a win. A lot of people predicted a loss. But I was very comfy considering.
Don't get me started. You know what was funny was when the lineups came out, and literally everyone went, "We're losing. It's done. I'm on time. No, I'm not having this. This guy. You know what? I'm not having this. This guy literally typed in the group chat, "Hey guys, I'll make it on time." This guy underneath me. This guy is the one.
Brother, right? I'm in clinic. Look,
Who came in last? Who came in last?
But he was last.
Exactly.
Anyway, back in the game. We did play Brentford's first team. I think this season a lot of people haven't watched them. They're not the greatest team in the world, but they're not rubbish. Like, they're a good team, and they're
ironically more fluid than they were without Tony. Like, if you actually look at most attacking metrics, they're generating more XG, and on top of that, I think that Buemo's really thrived with the extra responsibility without Tony. I think that they're a little bit more versatile in the way that they attack teams.
It's a bit similar to Kane in the sense that, like when Kane dropped out, like Spurs, just the responsibility spreads out across the team. A lot more people step up. There's a lot less pressure to defer to someone. Like Wissa was probably their main man, even though Mbeumo's like the big name, but Wissa had their most shots, and he consistently does that. I think their attack is a lot more diverse without a focal point, and it kind of suits them. But at the same time, when the going gets tough, they don't have that Tony quality. So, and we saw that he lacked in certain actions. But yeah, I think you were generous saying that we haven't really seen certain combinations 3 times. The only combination we've seen is Jorginho and Gabriel, and obviously Gabriel and Ramsdale. Apart from that, White has never played with Tomiyasu next to him. Gabriel has never played with Tomiyasu on his right.
Front 3 have never played together.
Middle 3 have never played together. Reese Nelson and Smith Rowe haven't played together in 2 years.
Even the sub combinations, Kai and Jesus, I don't think have played together on that side, if I'm not mistaken.
It's very it was very new. Like the players just never have played together. So for me, the reason why I predicted a 2-1, even though you didn't see the prediction, I predicted a 2-1 because I expected us to die down second half and then concede a goal, get a bit shaky. But I thought we would have scored 2 in the first half. We did only score 1. We probably should have scored more. I think the first half was one of the most dominant first half we've seen this season from our team. Weirdly, it's like, because obviously, as you said, our big names, the Sakas, weren't there. But what did you guys like from the lineup? Like when you saw the lineup, what did you like? What did you dislike? What did you want?
I saw Tomiyasu and Ben. I think that seeing both of them on the same side, like you could tell from the lineup, that was the first thing that hit me. I don't know about you two. For me, one of them was going to be centre back, one was going to be right back, and I didn't think with a debut, I didn't think, like, instinctively in my mind, I thought, well, if White's going to be there next to a debutant, it's probably going to be White right back and Tomiyasu centre back, and we've all wanted Tomiyasu centre back. Chris, to your line, I mean, this is from
29-year-old. Yeah, 29-year-old. He's a centre back. He's been a centre back.
He's been a centre back. He was whole of this last season. Bologna is a centre back, but he was I think Chris's line was he was a 29-year-old centre back in a 22-year-old right back's body. I think that was that was the line. But yeah, we all thought he was a centre back from the beginning. I mean, I think for Japan we've seen him play right and left centre back, and for us we've seen him play left back, and I think he's even got better at left back for us, playing in that more inverted role. I think this season he's evolved a bit in terms of his ability to play inside a bit, but he is predominantly a right sided centre back for me. I don't know about you two, but that's where he's going to. Is where he's going to thrive for us. I think Mikel was saying in the presser today that once he gets to his physical capabilities, then there's a very adaptable and versatile and very important piece that we
said it. We've said it on here quite a bit. I mean, the biggest benefit about Tomiyasu hasn't just been like right center back, but it's his central center back versatility. Yeah. Right, like that has been the clamor that we've said even from last season when Holden got injured. I was screaming for it, and it's nice to see. It's frustrating to see this late, but it's nice to see that it's now an option. And typically,
I feel like it's not even late now; it's early. I feel like it's early because
it's 2 years. It's 2 years in the making.
2 years late, but it's early in the season.
Sure,
that's why. That's the thing. I don't want this done in April. You know what I mean? I want this done now.
This guy is jumpy.
I'm very jumpy today. I'm very excited to actually see your face for once. So maybe
it's that. No, but I think like the Tomiyasu thing. It's nice to have, as you said, so early in the season where it's going to be a configuration that we're going to see quite a bit more. And I think that the one thing from an international standpoint, which is really the only standpoint that we've got center back sample. I mean, in Bologna, he almost did play, to be fair, like center back just as much as right back, but it was primarily at left center back for the international squad. And I think from an Arsenal standpoint, really, it has to do with who is going to be a central center back of the two. And that's why Gabriel and him kind of work in this way, because Gabriel is still the auxiliary kind of left center back in a 3, and Tomiyasu moves inside. And I think that he made some ambitious passes, but one thing that was brilliant was the way that he had the first time left-footed cross out of his system. And I think that when you've got a player that is so able to receive comfortably on both sides, that's the most important thing from a central center back perspective. He's also got the dual dominance. I think he's probably our best defender 1v1. Maybe Gabriel could talk to him in terms of that. But Gabriel's more of a channel defending. I still think Tomiyasu, if you're stood up 1v1, is one of the best, if not the best in the squad in terms of a duel perspective. And he's really complete both ground and aerial duels. So it was really nice to see that change. I think if you're asking me what my favorite thing is, I'm not going to hide it. Emile Smith-Rowe, right central midfield, something I've been yelling, screaming, begging Mikel for the better part of 2.5 years. and having absolute debates where that's his best position. And I think it's no surprise that we ended up having probably the most fluid, or at least the biggest central access game of the season. Yes, even more than PSV. We had something like 32 zone 14 entries in this half, with almost half of them coming from the right-hand side. Shock horror, who is on that side. Now, there are still some things that we need to talk about with Emile broadly, but it's absolutely clear that he improved the central access of the team in a very convincing manner. And I think just having a midfield where you're able to receive in pockets but turn and carry through the block after a pass is the most vital thing. The amount of times that you saw first-time balls from Ben White and, kind of Emile being able to take it in stride was beautiful. It's something that we haven't seen. And even Jorginho being able to pick out Emile through the center of the pitch, dragging bodies, that kind of almost wonder run. We saw it, and we saw almost one of his trademark goals. Look, to be fair, I'm not going to be biased. I think the second half he dropped off physically. There was certainly an element of having not started in 499 days. I'm going to repeat that because there's a lot of people sitting there saying fitness is a concern for a boy that hasn't played a match, or at least a full 90 for 499 days, which is ridiculous. But I think there was a lot to see there in terms of him offering a solution to one of this season's biggest problems.
Yeah, for me, I think, the Smith Rowe addition was great to see. I think the debate was Smith Rowe or Havertz, right centre mid. Like, who is Mikel going to do? I think we're all happy to see Smith Rowe start on right centre mid. His ability to just spin on the half turn is something that we don't really possess in the mid. We don't possess in the midfield in the squad, and it did really help. Like, just his movement to receive between the lines and just turn and face, even if he doesn't get the pass off to Eddie or dribble through, just the danger of him turning and facing is something that we just don't have. And for me, it was nice to see him start. He did drop off second half. You can only expect it. It's only the second time he's played 20 plus minutes this year. So, well, for Arsenal, he did play for under 21s, but for Arsenal, it's only the second time. So for me, it's very expected he was going to drop off. I think with Tomiyasu, it's very intriguing for me that he plays his best long balls on his left foot. Like, for a right-footed player, like when he plays the big switch to Reese Nelson or to Charles, it was always on his left foot. Like, it was very weird to see, but I think it was nice again to see someone who hasn't really played where we all want them to play there. I think Jorginho, second half, did well.
Very good.
First half, I think he was very poor. Like, in the lead up to the goal, he lost the ball in the box. He did get saved by Emile, I think. He got saved by someone. I don't remember who saved him, but I
think it was Emile. Wasn't it that one duel where he was on the near the like on the right side, just
the right side of the box?
Yeah. I think that was Emile. I'm pretty sure
he got saved, and I think he did grow into the game. Second half was great. And then he came on and was good as well. But I think the lineup is nice to see. We have another cup game next week. Hopefully, we do see a lineup like that. We probably will have guys like Vieira back fit, who will probably mean that we don't see a Charles Sergio Jr. in the Champions League. But for me, I didn't speak on him, but I like to see him start. Like, that was my number one thing, to see Charles start, despite White not passing to him or whatever. But I think it was nice to see someone who the Arsenal fan base don't really know. Like, if we saw a Mario, I think
you could see on the timeline, everyone was like, I was seeing people saying, like, not only who's this, the one that was hilarious to me was, wait till everyone pretends to know who he is after the game. That was the one that tickled me.
I think he has more goals and assists this season than games. I think he's 6 goals and assists in 5 games. Last season he was one of our best players in the 18s and 21s. So for me, he definitely deserves to be promoted. Like, a lot of them do, but he's one of the attackers that for me deserve to get promoted. But
it just sucks, I think, that he had a role that really doesn't suit him. I mean, we've talked about it on this channel, again, not to replug, but the youth pod, we talked about Charles Sergio Jr. And I think the one thing that me and you talked about, Chris, at least, like, I've always preferred him centrally in terms of what he offers you. He's this kind of ball striking off both feet.
False 9 type-ish, right?
I mean, That's where I see him, and that's where I saw him over a year ago. I mean, he's still a tricky winger. It's not as though that he's complete. He's so young, he can still offer himself in a different role, but really he's versatile across the front line. We know this. I think on the wings, he's more of a touchline winger that relies on cutting inside or at least drifting inside. He's somebody that likes to receive ball to feet, but also he can run. He's very powerful. He's pacey. That run in behind is something he's got. So I don't think you can limit him as maybe a profile. I just see him so potent with that ball striking off both feet, which is so strong in that false nine role, in that central zone. I just think he has an understanding of space that's brilliant, especially in tight spaces. But again, we didn't see any of this in this game. And I think a big part was Ben didn't trust Charles Ajo Jr., which I think if you look at the passing networks, it's just absolutely clear that, Ben does not pass to Charles whatsoever. But a lot of it, I think, flowed through Jorginho, who was super important as the game went on. Another player who I think we should probably have a section on, period, is Reese Nelson. I mean, for me, man of the match overall. I think Reese Nelson played brilliantly. And I think in a fringe team, at least, when Emile was still working himself into the game, Reese found himself as the technical leader in terms of taking charge, in terms of ball to feet actions, in terms of just getting outside of like really tricky situations. I thought that Reese Nelson had a phenomenal game, and he again showed up with output. I think Reese is now genuinely not just a fringe player, but he seems to be the top of the B list, and he is pushing for a start against Bournemouth with really Trossard and Martinelli out. I think it was ridiculous that he didn't start in the North London derby, but still, I think his performances show that it's time for him to take his spot at left wing, certainly if Martinelli and Trossard aren't there, which I think is not only the popular vote, but also the most informed vote. Because I think Reese has developed this aggression that I've seen now for almost a year. He's a different man. Not only is he contributing with key output, which you kind of have as a check mark, but he looks stronger. I don't know if you guys recognize, but the team went long to him, and he was holding off center backs.
Tomiyasu, yeah.
Yeah.
And Ramsdale, actually.
Yeah, and there was times where I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, is that Eddie? No, it's Reese Nelson holding off center back. So there's just a level of physicality that he's grown into his frame. He's a lot more authoritative actions, and I think that his output is now matching up with those intangibles. And instead of performing in moments, he's giving 90 minutes of excellent performance. So I think Reese is the man of the match, personally.
Yeah, I agree that he's the man of the match. But again, he's a player that we haven't seen much for. A player who went on loan, was the second best attacker in a team that went to a European final. And then he comes back here. He gets, 80 minutes, I think it was, when Saka got injured. He scores 2 goals versus Nottingham Forest in that 5-0. Gets an assist. And we don't really see him till, Bournemouth? Oh, yeah, we don't really see him till Bournemouth, where he gets the goal again to win us in one. What was that moment of the season? Something like that. I don't remember what the award was called. Whatever. But yeah, I think he's a player who's definitely grown. A player that we all want to see. But yeah, let's get into him. He scored in the 7th minute. Eddie, good pressing. It was a bad pass, but you have
excellent pressing all match, by the way, Eddie.
Yeah, you have to be there to win it. The pass wasn't the greatest. It bobbled on a perfect pitch, but the pass did go to Reese Nelson. He gets the assist, and Reese Nelson puts it in the bottom corner in the 7th minute. For me, the composure was great. I think we deserved that. Maybe not at the exact time, but we deserved to. The press deserved the goal. I think the press from the front 3 all round was very good. Eddie was great off the ball that game. But yeah, what did you make of the goal? The time it came and what happened after the goal?
I mean, we've been saying all season, haven't we, that the press has been, and even last season as well, the press is one of our major chance creation mechanisms, and we have to really appreciate what we've built in our off the ball structure. I think people have said that we have probably the best out of possession structure in Europe right now. So I just think that when you have such an efficient pressing structure that is able to create chances at a level that we are creating at, it gives the more creative players a bit more of a, it takes the pressure off, and it make sure that we can create chances even when things aren't really quite clicking. And this is a game where, we're going to have to talk about Kai at some point. I think second half he improved when Jesus came on. Some really nice touches there, but again, some still some teething issues, but having a press, going back to the point, having a press that's able to create chances at the level that ours does really gives it it gives us a different mechanism, a very reliable mechanism to create chances. I mean, we remember when it used to happen to us. We remember the Palace game where Thomas basically got 8 by Conor Gallagher. Like we can appreciate how having a build up, which every team does now. Teams don't really go long. Having a build up that's having it basically disrupted consistently time and time again, that's going to create chaos, and it really does, because teams really now everyone goes three at the back, have the fullback, one of the fullbacks go high, have people compress in, and then really try and build through. And now we are able to disrupt that on a consistent basis. So it's such a great asset to have.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the game, you have to speak about it in two halves. If we want, we can have a Kai Havertz section, but I mean, I think for the most part, what we're seeing is Mikel being stubborn to where he's used best, and it's not somebody that I felt was the best signing from a fund allocation standpoint. But if we're just going to talk about Kai Havertz, he's best in the right half space. He sees the pitch the best in the right half space. Mm-hmm. He's able to open up and see the entirety of the pitch. He still is somebody that I find. In this game, he was okay. He did his defensive work rate excellently on the ball. He didn't lose it, but he tried nothing adventurous on the ball, and that's part of the problem. I think a lot of people are sitting there. He's getting better. There's like small steps of improvement, but fundamentally, when you buy £65 million, you don't look for defensive competency and a passing accuracy of 98%. That's not what you pay for. You pay for a little bit more. You pay for some adventure in the half turn. You pay some goals, some assists. I mean, look, the output is not something I'm really worried about. His movement is second to none. Like, it's the reason he receives so many XG chances. Like, it's brilliant, to be honest with you. It's probably the best part of his game. But the reason I think he works well with the Jesus guys is just simply pairing these profiles together. And we've talked about it on this show for so long. But when you've got somebody that is a kind of space invader, this guy that likes to run into the space that's left behind by center backs and fullbacks, you need to pair it with a ball to feet option and somebody that's able to not only just do the defensive dual things that he doesn't have time doing, but also somebody that is a ball to feet option that's good in tight spaces, because Kai Havertz is going to be the runner into that space. So that's why I think him and Jesus combined well with each other. But I think if you're looking at it long term, Kai Havertz cannot be the 8 that's more conservative. You can't have Martin Ødegaard be the higher 8 and Kai Havertz be the deeper 8. It doesn't make sense. Like, these are two profiles that should be switched. If you're going to look at it objectively and you want to maximize goals and assists, Kai Havertz is the one that is more likely to get that. And Martin Ødegaard is far better at second phase responsibilities. And so that's the conversation that needs to be had if we are forcing these two to be in the starting 11. But one thing that I did take that's pretty positive, by the way, is that Brentford are a brilliant transition team in midfield. We were able to field Jorginho as the 6 and thrive with 2 fairly offensive 8s in general. And I think that, Emile did fall off physically in the second half. I don't think he was diligent in his press from a defensive point of view in the second half. And I think that we still had, Kai come on, and I think between the 2 fairly offensive 8s, in quotes, we had a 6 that everybody would have initially feared from a transition threat, but he thrived. He did brilliantly, and I think Jorginho deserves the credit for that. The only thing is, I also think that Mohamed El Neni, brilliant little cameo. That's somebody that I thought looked really sharp that I didn't expect. And if we're talking about individual performances, guys, I think we should talk about Jakub Kiwior before we go between the first half and the second half analysis, because that boy really impressed. In order to go from left back, which he did brilliantly, by the way, and he added a level of defensive security for Jorginho. Part of the reason Jorginho thrived is having Ben White and Jakub Kiwior to occupy lanes beside him, and having that athletic, sturdy durability is what gave Jorginho the platform to put his foot on the ball. And Jakub Kiwior shut down everything down that side, but also he was brilliantly in terms of his passing completion, and he was very adventurous with his passing. He then moves from left back to right center back, completely different angles, completely different reception angles, and it's almost as though nothing has been lost from Tomiyasu. Like, guys, I don't think you realize how brilliant that is for a left-footed left center back, left back hybrid to then move right center back and make sure that the buildup is completely untouched. It's amazing, and I think he could become something really special. He's slowly starting to. Sorry, just to end. He gives you the defensive solidity that people yearn for from a Zinchenko option, but also he has the passing range that a Zinchenko has. I don't think he has quite the turning radius and like the aesthetic between the line play, but his passing range is so brilliant that he's going to be asking questions soon. And if not, because Zinchenko had been so good defensively the last couple of games, I really think you reward Jakub Kiwior for his performance. But I just think Zinchenko's been doing so brilliantly defensively lately that that's the only reason that we're not seeing Jakub Kiwior. But I think we could this season.
Yeah, I think even offensively, I liked his rotations with Reese.
Yeah.
There was times where Reese was like in the box in the half space and Kiwior was to like a touchline left winger, whipping crosses into the box. I think his rotations were very strong. Yeah. Reese as well was so diligent defensively. There was a point where they were on the counter and Reese was the player that recovered the ball for us from Yanel, I think it was, who fouled Reese on the edge of our box. I think that left-hand side defensively was great. Even Gabriel, like dealing with the balls in the channel to Mbuemo and even Wissa. Wissa, who played like between the centre-backs for pretty much the 90 minutes. He wasn't really drifting wide. They were playing a lot of balls over the top into him, and he was, well, for me, he did well at times, apart from the finish. He did very well. Gabriel and Tomiyasu really dealt with him. For me, I was very confident defensively, apart from obviously the Jorginho factor. But I think when they played the balls in behind, because they've got these fast outlets, we dealt with them across the back four very, very easily. Kiwior, I think he had a very good game, even being able to switch the right centre back side. I think we should have made that change earlier. I think Arteta let the players drown a little bit too much on my liking. I think that change to take Ben White off, who didn't look fit. Yeah, you guys can answer that after, but yeah, Ben White didn't look fully fit either. Him and Smith Rowe, I think, should have been taken off 55, 60 the latest. Like, they shouldn't have been on the pitch that long. Even, I think Ben White even only got taken off because he got the yellow for time wasting. If he never got that, we probably see him play like 90 minutes or so. But yeah, on the subs, I was not happy with them. But yeah, what do you guys make of that? Because you did say if we flip the dynamics, Havertz should be the one entering the box and taking the shots. So Ødegaard got 15 non-penalty goals last season. You can't argue with that. So why do you think Havertz has more output potential in that role than Ødegaard?
I mean, it's simply due to his movement. I mean, as the highest aid, if you look at our system, really, the one thing I'll credit with Ødegaard, he's probably become one of the best crashers of the box in the world. And that's really for it. It's not really to do much with his ball striking, because whenever he opens up onto his left foot, it's actually quite poor. One thing he's brilliant at is shooting across his body. And most of his goals come from cutbacks to the top of the spot. So it's really a systemic goal down there. And he's got some really good long-range efforts that he's done really well. But Kai Havertz, in terms of movement, is unprecedented to Martin Ødegaard in terms of that. And so if you're really going to profile what Kai Havertz is, again, we've talked about it so many times on the show, he's that, if you want the technical term, the Rom de Tour, or the second striker, really is somebody that, he can pop up in different areas, but he is brilliant at finding gaps between the lines. And, in terms of finishing in the box, Kai Havertz has a much better chance of finishing those chances than Martin Ødegaard does. But, Martin Ødegaard has done a really good job about crashing the box. But they're just two players that I think are thriving in different areas. You don't look for Kai Havertz to thrive in the second phase of midfield, whereas you're going to look for Martin Ødegaard to thrive in the second phase of midfield. And vice versa, all the benefits that Kai Havertz would have theoretically is facilitating play in the final third or finishing chances. That's what you've bought him for. Otherwise, why did you buy £65 million? Because he's not enough of a defensive presence and he's not influential enough in the build-up of the middle third. So if you're saying that between the two, just because Martin Ødegaard has, by the way, been the highest midfielder in this entire team and taking the most shots, well, of course he's going to show up with more goals. That's a role discussion. That's not an ability discussion. And so that's really the problem that I've got with it. And really, if you're actually going to look at it from a Martin Ødegaard perspective, it's kind of unfair to expect them to do these things. And I think I've been really upset about kind of the role change that Martin Ødegaard has had to go through. I mean, he's getting unnecessary stick. Give him space to crash the box, let him shoot across his body, and have more second phase responsibilities. And Martin Ødegaard is among the best in the squad. He's among the best in the squad in pockets. Why do you have him as the highest midfielder, many times above Saka? Doesn't really make sense to me, especially when you've bought a guy that you've, in theory, said is going to be a prime secondary striker. So when you start to look at it, not even just Kai Havertz, but my favorite in the position would have been Emile Smith-Rowe, who gives you all of it. Like, what is the definition of that right central midfielder role right now? It is basically somebody be the highest midfielder, the one to take the most amount of shots, and is demanded to finishing actions. Broadly speaking, who is the midfielder that's got the most competency doing that? It's either Emile Smith-Rowe or it's Kai Havertz, ignoring the kind of winger symmetry that we talk about. But from a movement perspective, Kai Havertz has shown everything in that department.
Because he's been the deepest of the two, but every single game of the 9 this season, we've seen a chance where we all say, how has he missed? Like, how has he not scored? Like, even versus Brentford, that chance where in the 32nd minute where Reese Nelson passed it to him, he should open, for me anyways, he should open up his body and smash it at the near post. Like, I remember him doing that last season for Chelsea. He's done that multiple times in his career, just shoot near post. But this time he took away all responsibility from himself and shot on his right foot. Because how can we complain that a left-footed player is shooting on his right foot, getting blocked? Like,
and he avoids responsibility doing it as well. Like, that's what it is.
It's a confidence thing as well. Let's not forget. Like, genuinely, we've seen that he's had this ability to hit the ball, ironically, from zone 14 into the at pretty much a pretty good pace. I've seen him hit goals for Germany and Chelsea, just sweeping it on his left. But he's not got the confidence just to hit it right now, and that's a lot of his actions are like that. It's not just the shooting. There's been times where the passes have just been too lackadaisical, not enough weight on them. There's been times where literally every game.
But those are all second phase responsibilities. And once again, who is the best player from getting us from the middle third to the attacking third? And that is consistently Martin Ødegaard. And it doesn't help his natural instinct. And I think people get too concerned left or right. Fundamentally, who do I want? Who is the best midfielder in the squad that's able to get Arsenal from the middle third to the final third? Undoubtedly, Martin Ødegaard. Who is the best in pockets? Martin Ødegaard. Is Martin Ødegaard operating in the pockets? He's not. He's being the highest midfielder right now. And so while he's doing a commendable job taking all the shots, if you actually look at Martin Ødegaard in zone 14 this season, he's completed 14 passes, okay? Only 2 of those have been into the box. Every single other one has been out wide, opening to the left, or 4 out to the right. He's had 7 shots. He's had 8 incomplete passes, and he's only made 1 chance created from zone 14 entries. So we don't have Martin Ødegaard in the center of the pitch, and I don't understand why fans are okay with continuing to have Martin Ødegaard on the periphery. And I think it's just because they see that, he's performed well with Saka last year on the right, that therefore we must keep him on the right. It's ridiculous to me, especially in a team that lacks central access, especially in a team that this season has struggled to influence play in the center of the pitch. We should be moving our most important player in the second phase to more central zones, not wider. So I don't understand that aspect. And if you're going to have somebody chase scraps and you're going to have somebody chase the final action, certainly we have players like Fabio Vieira, Emile Smith-Rowe. These are profiles that actually lend towards that with their ball striking, their ability to finish in the box. Martin Ødegaard, that's just not his role. And so I'm struggling to understand why this role has been put on him. And it's clearly instruction because he's shooting more than he ever has.
Yeah, he's shooting more than the whole team. He's shooting more than the whole team. He's averaging 3 shots a game in the league.
And I'll just end on this little rant. If I was to broadly put the number of shots in this attacking department, who do I want having those shots? It would be Gabriel Martinelli. If I had one forward that I wanted to lead the team in shots, it would be Martinelli. He is our best finisher in the squad. And so I just think that if we're going to rejig some of the midfield roles, and we're going to be open to new roles. Tomiyasu, central center back, Emile Smith-Rowe, right central midfield. If we're going to be open to these things, we've really got to think about the midfield balance, and we can't keep having redundancy in the midfield, because the one issue that I've got is even seeing the lineup, mate, like you've got Kai Havertz and Emile Smith-Rowe as your eights with Jorginho. Why do you have two running eights? Where's the passing profile? Martin Ødegaard should have been used as a balancer. You pick between Kai Havertz and Emile Smith-Rowe for the running eight. And then you pick between Fabio Vieira and Martin Ødegaard for the passing eight profile. That's what you should
need a controller. You need a controller next to
whoever
the DM is going to be. And I think the role is, what is his thought process? I think I can't really explain it. Like, I don't really agree with what he's doing. It's not the first. It's not the last time. He's putting the wrong players in certain positions, and then when all fails, he puts the player in the right position. Like we've seen Ødegaard, the success people are talking about last season. He wasn't our highest midfielder. That was Xhaka,
and that was deeper, by the way.
He was a lot deeper than what. Like, we're seeing Havertz pick up the ball on the edge of the box from Ramsdale versus Manchester United. Something, watching Havertz for all these years, I've never ever seen him do. He's never ever had success doing it. What Arteta is intent on making someone who's played striker for 2 years, 3 years now, and has had anytime people say, "Oh, Havertz played well today," or "Havertz was decent today," is when he gets moved to the 9, like for the last 20 minutes versus PSV or versus Brentford, or in that game versus Man City. I think a lot of his success is higher up the pitch, where even if he fails, like, the danger of it affecting the team is a lot less. Like, when he loses the ball in the striker role, like, it's a lot less painful for the team than if he does it from left centre mid. And I think putting him up top just gives him a little bit more confidence because he's a lot less alone. But yeah, for me, Arteta's just, he's hurting him, but at the same time, he's probably letting him see the ball more.
Well,
he's going to learn.
I just think, like, look, in regards to this, Gakko, like, look, I get it from a fitness perspective, but broadly, the same issues are happening. And I'm not just talking about this specific games where we're forced into a change, but just broadly speaking, we don't balance the midfield. And we haven't balanced the midfield all season. And our access of the central zones of the pitch are very, very clear. If you look at a passing network from Ben Griffiths, who's been brilliant, and I posted this on my Twitter, he kind of grafted the 15 longest sequences of box entries and also the 15 longest passing sequences that didn't lead to box entries. And in every single one, they're all a U-shaped pattern with 0 zone 14 central access. It has been something that has been a problem. Opponents have scouted us, they fear us, and they pack the middle of the pitch. And we've talked about it on so many reviews about it. But fundamentally, we need to find a solution to access the center of the pitch more, because as long as we're being blocked out of that, our box entries are happening wider in worse shot locations. So when that happens, your forwards and your attacking fluidity is being capped in terms of a potential, because if you're forcing teams wide, A, the distance to goal is larger, and B, the angles are poorer. You've got less angles to operate out wide. And so while we're probably, I think, second in effectiveness for box entries, it means that, we're not finding shots in central zones, which means despite us getting in the box, we're in the least optimal area of the box. So that's like a very misleading stat. And I think it comes down to fundamentally that we've got more final third control as per field tilt with just possession. By having built up wide, we're getting the ball into zones or in the final third more than we did last season, and we've got a better rest defense because when we lose the ball, we lose it out wide. That's just the natural component of losing it in a space where you're attacking, right? So clearly the rest defense is better, but it's come at the expense of attacking fluidity, and that's because the ball's being worked wide. We're not working it through the middle of the pitch. So we definitely need to find a little bit more of a better balance, and I think the reason that I'll bring it back to Brentford, because we've been talking about this for far too long. When you've got your wingers that are far from goal, and when you've got not enough midfield fluidity and interchange, you can't access the middle of the pitch. And that was something that I think we solved a bit with Brentford by having an Emile Smith-Rowe down the right. And despite having a touchline winger out to him that's right-footed, which isn't natural and didn't receive the ball, we still found that Jorginho and both Emile Smith-Rowe were really important about getting entry into zone 14. Again, I'm going to repeat the stat. We had 32 zone 14 entries in this match, the most out of any game that we've had all season. And now that's not just because Emile Smith-Rowe started, but it's because...
And Reese was very important as well, I think.
And Reese.
His combination and his passing, like his pass weight, his pass selection, was very important in getting to the center of the pitch, because it's all good and well having Smith-Rowe, but if you have like Martinelli receiving from the, like, no slight on Martinelli, but if you have Martinelli receiving on the left wing, he's a lot less likely to punch the ball into Smith-Rowe in the center of the pitch. Like, it's something he probably doesn't do. He doesn't drift central to allow or Kyrgios would overlap. Zinchenko doesn't really overlap. You're just having players do things that they don't really do. Like, even the chances we created, like, White, it's when White actually decided to play a ball over the top to Smith-Rowe. He received on the half turn, cuts it back to Reese Nelson, then Havertz gets the chance. Like, those things we're not seeing. Like, White, I was even getting angry at White during the game. I was asking, like, Curran, like, why does he always, when we get a free kick deep in the right side, why does he just kick it like to the over the top to the right winger? Like, it doesn't, like, why is that the only time he decides, oh, this is when I want to pass to the right winger? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, but yeah,
no, I want to, because the thing is, I saw this on Twitter as well. I think there was a misconception because I think that there was 10 passes between White and Sego Jr. in the entire game, and people were bringing up that there was only something like similar numbers to when White were playing with Saka, because White's not really the one usually playing Saka the ball most of the time. Like, the people see 10 passes, and because it's the same number, they always it's a misconception. They're getting it wrong. No, it's just White is not the one that is usually passing it to Saka. So I just think there's a real interest, because we all saw the pass map. We all saw the pass map from this Brentford game, and the link from White to Sego Jr. was kind of pathetic. And it's his first game. So I think there was a lot of trying to protect him a little bit, not trying to overexpose him.
No, but White also had a lot more touches. Like, it's very different.
Yeah, exactly. White, this is the next thing I was going to get onto, because I feel like he was playing it central a lot more. He was trying to play Emile in. I think he saw Emile as a fulcrum to really get the ball, and maybe he thought White, Emile, and then Emile can maybe combine with Sego Jr. or combine with Havertz or combine with Nketiah and get through the lines, and then we can move through the final third that way. I don't think it was a case where it was just like, screw this guy. We'll play without him. He's just there to fill the numbers. It's just
like White played 68 minutes and he had 70 touches. Versus Spurs, he had 54 touches. Like, he touched the ball a lot more. Like, if he played 90 minutes last game, he was on course to get 95, 96 touches of the game. Then he is. But he was on course to get 95, 96 touches of the game, which is more than 3 out of the other 7 games he's played this season. So he was getting more touch of the ball, and he was a lot higher. Like, when White wasn't passing to Sego Jr., it's very different to what he wasn't doing to Saka, just because of where we had the ball. Like, where he was on the pitch was so he hasn't been that high maybe since Forest, you know. Like, since Forest, we haven't been camped in a half like that all season for me. So me complaining about White not passing to a right winger when the only time we got good crosses in the box is when White actually decided to play that ball in behind to Smith-Rowe or Charles Sego Jr. Just says he was hurting our attack. And earlier someone asked, like, why is White always playing? Because Cedric wasn't here, really. He wasn't fit. Cedric isn't the greatest right back in the world, but he wasn't fit. So White was going to play however many games he played last season and was going to play on injuries. But yeah, hopefully now that Cedric, there's a willingness to play him, he came on. So hopefully next week we don't see White play 2 games in a week and he only plays 1 with Cedric. But yeah, he was a lot higher. It's a very different situation. Like, I think what we did in that first half is something we should aim to do very consistently. Like, every single player in our 11, or obviously in our 10, be camped in the half. Like, that's what we should do for 95% of games this season. But it's something we haven't done despite dominating possession at times. But yeah, I think Yeah, the first half overall for me, we could have created a lot more chances. We didn't really face much danger. It was good to get the goal. It was a great run from Smith Rowe that probably should it have been a goal. I'm not sure. Like, it was very hard chance on his left foot. He probably should score, but it's hard. Havertz should have scored.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think Eddie did well in the first half, and then after second half, it all went different. Like first half,
I think that's just a lack of match time, isn't it? A lot of these guys are just on the peripheries. Just they're gonna gas Emil as the poster boy for that. But yeah, I'm not too concerned. It's just that we're gonna have to play quite a few of these guys against against Bournemouth. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
Well, yeah, the second half, their shots went from 3 to 15. Their possession went from.
They had that period, didn't they?
Yeah, their possession went from 35 to 47. So they were a lot more in the game, obviously until the subs in the 80th. But apart from fitness, do you think there was anything else apart from fitness that led to them having a period of dominance, having a disallowed goal? Like, apart from fitness, do you think there's anything that impacted the game that led to people getting scared we were going to concede, like me?
No, I mean, you go first, George.
No, it's okay, Kirk. Go.
Like, okay. I don't know. It's just, it feels like there's a lot of, like, it's not almost like there's like a bit of staleness, especially in that second half. But I think we kind of conceded territory, and we haven't really talked about Ramsdale at all. I mean, what did you make of Ramsdale, Chris?
I think one, I think it was premature to say, oh, he's lost his spot. It was rubbish. Raya's completely better than him when we played. Reiterate, the two worst teams we played this season in PSV and Everton, worse in different ways. PSV employed the worst press I think I've seen against us in I don't know how long. And then Everton, that one, their attackers can't finish, but two, their midfield is over aggressive. So it's a lot easier to play the ball over the top of them. But yeah, I think Ramsdale was incredible. I think he made some great saves in the second half. On the ball, his long ball was perfect. His pass on the ground between the lines.
I think that was a lot of people were getting griped about, wasn't it? They lost the comp passes, through the lines to the DM or to the centre.
Again, as a team gets better, as City have gotten better, you don't see Edison do them passes as much. He doesn't need to do them. Rodri gets 100, 110, 120 passes a game. You don't want your keeper to get 30 passes in a game. You want him to touch the ball as little as possible, so you're on the halfway line with your centre-back and DM touching the ball 100 plus times a game. That's the aim. The aim isn't for us to stay in 21, 22 and Ramsdale to take 40, 50 touches a game. That's not good.
No.
The aim to progress as a team is to be in the opposing half as much, and your centre-back like Saliba or Declan Rice playing 100, 110, 120 passes a game and sustaining pressure in the half. So for me, it was great.
Yeah, I think from a performance perspective, I talked about how he eradicated these distribution false claims, and a lot of people are putting up stats and goalkeeping stats about pass completions and not realizing that, a large portion of this means that if your first touch gets hit to your marker, it counts as a pass completion.
Exactly.
But it does not mean that the ball is under control, nor that pass ends up remaining under control with the player. And I think David Raya does this well, sure, but I mean, the second touch isn't always the same. And I think Aaron Ramsdale, what you could see very clearly is he's got a much better technique in terms of those central passes. In fact, I think he's got far better disguise, and I think that he's also got less of an angle bias. David Raya looks a little bit stiff in terms of his entry into the center of the pitch with his passing, and his kind of medium passing is actually much poorer than Ramsdale's. But of course, in a long distribution sense, he's got a better clip ball wide, but it's not as though Ramsdale's poor at this. It's one of his better passes. It's just, I think when you have a look about the discussion in general, you get not really many differences from a distribution standpoint. And I think that if you've got a better long passing accuracy with Raya, you've got a better medium passing accuracy with Aaron Ramsdale. So it's horses for courses in terms of the distribution. It's very, very similar. One thing that I don't think you get from David Raya, and what you do get from an Aaron Ramsdale, is You might get more consistent positioning from David Raya, but Aaron Ramsdale is capable of the spectacular. And that save that he makes to push it onto the post is brilliant. It's a match-winning save. And David Raya doesn't get there. He doesn't produce those type of saves. And I think that there's going to be, just to conclude this, there's going to be David Raya games. There's going to be Aaron Ramsdale games.
Isn't that the first thing you said, or we said, but that exact statement you say all the time since we signed them.
Yeah.
If the aim, like as I said last week, you have players in every single position that you want to perform at a certain level so that if there's an injury, it doesn't drop off. And we're going to play 50, 60 games in a season. They're both going to play at least 20, like guaranteed. They're going to play 20. So for me, there was no complaint. Like we saw Raya versus the two worst teams we've played so far. And we've seen Ramsdale versus a much better team, and he performed, and Raya performed as well. Raya, obviously, he dropped off versus Tottenham. He hurt us on the ball. But then Ramsdale plays against Brentford, a top 10 side in the league, and he performed well. So for me, I can't complain that Ramsdale's performing well. I like that. There's no doubt in Arteta's mind.
And he should start. Let's have it right. Ramsdale deserves to start. Ignoring the kind of story of him going back to Bournemouth, by the way, like he would love to play back in that crowd. But I think it fundamentally he showed the better form, so that he starts. Like I don't understand this player war by fans. And by the way, the only thing that loses here is the player, not Arsenal. No matter what happens in this situation, Arsenal win. And so I don't understand the drive to defend. Look, we all know what it is. Let's not beat around the bush. It's because narrative bias happens, and you have a subjective bias to one keeper, and you've put your foot in a camp. And the reason that you want one to succeed is because you want to be told that you're right. That's fundamentally what it is. But really, what you've seen is Aaron Ramsdale perform brilliantly at an away ground at a top 10 side, exactly like you said, Chris. And I think that there's going to be games for David Raya, for example. I'll repeat: Brighton, Man City. I want David Raya. I would prefer him for those type of games, 100%. Aaron Ramsdale, though, if I'm away at Anfield for Liverpool, I'm choosing him. And that doesn't mean that one keeper is vastly better than the other. I still think you're talking about the top 3 to 5 keepers in the league last season, but still this season, the exact same thing is true. And as long as David Raya is okay with being in competition, because we know Aaron Ramsdale is from his past.
Surely he wouldn't come if he wasn't.
I know. That's what I mean. Like, I think it's all in our fans' heads. And so I'm just, to end on this, because I think we've said enough on it, this debate between who is the better keeper, let's just say that there is no debate, and fundamentally the one that's in formal play. And if there's a game that suits one goalkeeper, we will use it for that game.
But it's not just them, though. It happens in every position. Like if you say Smith Rowe should play, it means you don't want Ødegaard to play.
Yep.
If you say Jesus or Nketiah to play, it means you hate the other. Vice versa. Same with Trossard, Martinelli. But again, like, I think the fact that there's actual debates that are probably warranted about who should start just goes to show the level of the squad. Because the expectation when we saw the lineup at 6:45 was Arsenal will lose 1-2-3-0. Like the expectation was that we're going to lose, and then the first half is probably the most dominant we've seen us. PSV was.
It wasn't this dominant. PSV
was a lot more prolific, but we conceded some dangerous chances.
Yes.
Remember the Noah Lang chances that he was creating on that first?
But him and Bakayoko had like 4 or 5 shots each. Like they were generating a lot of chances. And Gabriel to save.
I mean, to be fair, we had that period in the second half where we conceded quite a few chances.
That's why I said the first half one. But again, it's the players died down because none of them start regular. None. A lot of them. None of them start regularly at this level. Like Charles has never played this level. Smith Rowe hasn't played this level in
499 days.
Yeah, since April 2022. Yeah, April 2022 was the last time he got 60, 70 minutes consistently in a month. Like since then, he hasn't done that. Reese hasn't done it since Feyenoord.
And he had an injury as well to start the season, Reese. So, I mean, he's still working back from fitness.
Eddie this year has done it. Like Eddie, this is his first year really doing it. Playing, he's still holding the grudge on crying. Playing consistently, Eddie has done that. And then Kai is playing in a new role. But yeah, again, like, the expectation was to lose. For me, I was happy with the first half performance. Second half, I understood why it happened. I think the sub should have made to save them a little bit earlier, but we didn't concede. Ramsdale saved them rather than Arteta. And then Elneny was a great sub, really. And
yeah, I do want to have a quick mention about Elneny because he looked decent. I think there was a real surprise from me because I think we all wanted him to leave. It's not that we hate him or anything, but the time is time. I thought it would be a good time for him to move on, but no, he stayed and he seems to be looking okay. I mean, coming off an ACL as well.
He's the epitome of a perfect for me squad player.
Yeah. He'll never make a fuss. And he'll always do a job.
Play 60 games in a season, and he doesn't play one, and he wouldn't really complain. But when he comes in, even if it's a Man United away, Chelsea away, Brentford away, he will perform to the level where
he's reliable in a moment. I wouldn't even say moments because as soon as you get it consecutively, he struggles. But he's reliable in a moment and in a game state and in a particular match, right? He did really well, and I think maybe to tie it off because we can move kind of to the Brentford preview in general.
Bournemouth.
Bournemouth. Yeah, Bournemouth preview. I think the game was just really good from the standpoint of you found out some new positions for players. Tomiyasu comes out with a supreme confidence, and I think that he also comes out as one of the better options in terms of our theory. Everybody kept complaining at the fact that we saw him as a central center back, and boom, he has a great performance. So you're check in that aspect. Emile Smith-Rowe on the right, by the way, and talked about in press conferences as an alternative to Martin Ødegaard. Check. That was something that everybody told me. We've never seen it, so we can't see it. I also got told on Twitter that the right central midfield could not be our highest midfielder, which was hogwash. But I mean, we've been doing it all season. So
Reese Nelson is a quality backup winger. Something people have argued against for. Yeah, we need a left winger. We need another right winger. People have complained for.
Yep.
A year or two now that we don't have backups, and Reese.
I think Trossard kind of. I mean, not correctly, but people in people's minds, we signed Trossard, and that was okay. We got a left winger, but he's not really a left winger, so
yeah, he'll never succeed.
No, he's a combination central player, right? If you want to have him as a left central midfield 8 as an option, sure. False 9 option, sure. He needs people around him in order to function.
Genuinely, I feel like our front three depth is Martinelli, Nelson, I would say Jesus and Nketiah, and then Saka and maybe Jesus, and then Trossard can play. Trossard kind of feels
can play right wing as well.
So for me, I feel like our Trossard's kind of like our Tomiyasu. You can slot in to either in the front line. I mean, you can slot into left wing, centre forward.
I think with Trossard, provide him with combinations and allow him shots on the edge of the box, and he can play probably across the front 5, right? The right center mid, but yeah.
So again, all in all, we basically played a game where we had a severely rotated 11. We found new positions for players. We learned something new between games. We gave an academy debut, and we walked off progressing into the round where we couldn't say the same last year. So it's all wins in my department, and we've got
all wins,
West
and
Ham.
then West
Ham coming up next, which is the story. Of course, it was. Declan Rice is going to have, even though he won't play.
I don't think he'll play.
He will play. I think he will.
He will. You think he will?
I think he will. Yeah.
I guess it depends where in the schedule it is in terms of.
It's on the 1st of November.
How many games do we have before and after though that it's sandwiched between? Do you have an idea of who our opponents are? Because
I'm gonna check that for you.
I'm sure fixture congestion will play a role. But look, we all knew that the story was going to happen. I knew that if we had an opportunity to progress in either cup, West Ham would be a choice that we would.
Perfect. And it's West Ham away as well. It's not at home.
Yeah. Well, typical. But look, I think it's an opportunity to look. And guys, the only thing that I will end on this stream with the Carabao, and we'll move on to the preview at least. But I think it's an excellent opportunity to win this thing, guys. It's you look at it, Man City are out. And I think that it would give us supreme confidence to lift a trophy in February. I always like the Carabao Cup because it gives.
It's after. Sorry to cut you off. It's after Sheffield at home, and then Newcastle.
So that's what I mean. I mean, Newcastle's a pretty important. Is Newcastle away?
3 days after.
Is Newcastle
away?
Yeah. So I definitely wouldn't start him for a physical battle away. But that's neither here nor there. I just think that the Carabao Cup is an excellent opportunity to win. We really should be looking at this competition as one to win. And I think getting a trophy in February will give us, or at least the squad, the benefit that it needs in terms of a physical trophy, in terms of what that does.
But the thing is, just going to Wembley itself.
We go there, we win. We don't go there and lose.
I know. I don't think we lose at Wembley. But even just going, we've seen teams lose the final and then kick on We've seen City do it. City do it at times. We've seen, I think, Liverpool had a good second half of the season after they lost their one to Chelsea. We've seen teams go to Wembley, lose, and like something clicks, and then they start going into a good run. So I don't think we would lose at Wembley. We do very well at Wembley, but like the fact is, it's great to be there. You know what I mean? That like even the Newcastle thing, they were like last year they were kind of like on the periphery of Champions League. Can we do it? Can we do it? And then so it kind of went into a bit of an overdrive. I think.
I think it's great to stay in the competition, not even just to win it, but just for the players to play. Like we don't see a Charles Sadio Jr. make his debut without this competition. So,
and that's the other reason why to go through. Like you can see, like maybe if Ethan's fit, or if Miles is fit, or Mario gets minutes, for example. I don't think it would happen against West Ham because they'll probably sick everyone on the poor kids.
We could beat a West Ham and then play like a Port Vale or a Mansfield or whatever.
Yeah,
and you can see a lot of youngsters. But yeah, I think it would be great to win that. But yeah, on to Bournemouth tomorrow. We play at 3 p.m. There's some Saliba and Saka were in the squad.
Saliba looked like he was limp. I don't know if you've seen the video. Saliba looks like he's I don't know whether Arteta was like doing it for him. He was like, brother, you get off that pitch, you get off this bus, and you go in front of those cameras, and you look like you're amputated or something. I don't know whether he was told to do that, but it was very exaggerated.
He doesn't walk normally. Anyways, he walks weird anyways.
But he's got a little bit of swag to him. He's got that little pimply, that little foot drag. He's got that like you walk in that he's got a little bit of hip dysplasia or something.
Saka's in the squad as well. Despite him saying this morning that he hasn't trained, then we just
look. I blame fans that believe Mikel Arteta with injuries at this point. It's on you because the amount of times that he does this, it's ridiculous. So can we stop?
It should be expected at this point, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The Trossard against Fulham is the perfect example. Like no one said he thought Trossard would be there, and he literally looked into the camera and said he's not fit, and started him. And they're not even on the bench. Started him. So
look, the one thing I will say is we've actually got a really favorable injury concern in terms of Dominic Solanke, who got taken off. Right, he was returning from injury,
and Tyler Adams.
Yeah, and Tyler Adams. So I think Bournemouth are very there for the taking, but I do worry about the transition midfield guys, and I think Declan also traveled, by the way, too.
Yeah,
that was also in the photo. So I mean that makes me feel a little bit better from a midfield perspective, but. I think the one thing that I struggled with in this game is without kind of their final third operator, Bournemouth should be a very easy game. We should make it quite easy. And I do want an easy performance. Like I don't want a stressful performance in this match. I've gone 2-0 away, clean sheet. I think Aaron Ramsdale starts. And I think that I really want to see Reese Nelson in the left wing position. That is my one non-negotiable as I look towards this game. Especially with what seems like Martinelli and Trossard out, there's no reason that Reese Nelson isn't starting this game after that performance of Brentford. So reward good performances. I think Ramsdale deserves a performance down there as well. And I think otherwise we're going to be relatively unchanged because, again, Saka will play. I can't believe people think Saka's going to, not continue his consecutive game record like you guys are.
I'm so annoyed he took that away from Gabriel, though. Gabriel was right behind Saka.
Yeah,
Gabriel was on 78. Saka was on. If you take away the 6 this season, Saka was on 81. So that's ridiculous. By the way, he's played 78 straight, and then
come. We will be here
in all reality. I mean, it is Aaron's. It's his old team. So if there is,
I'm already recording videos of him speaking to old teammates.
It's guaranteed he's starting at this point.
like honestly, I like this. I remember because I posted a mock lineup that I wanted, and Chris went. I don't know when we signed goalkeeper, and I was like,
he made a lineup and didn't write the goalkeeper.
Literally. And the thing is, if you go on that app, if you type it in right now, go on your laptop and type in buildlineup.com. Right? So, there's no tagline for in the when you load it up. It's all just a bunch of shirts. So I literally typed in goalkeeper because I can't be asked. I don't want to talk about it. I do not want to talk about the goalkeeper situation. I don't care. Like genuinely, we have two very good goalkeepers. It's basically what Mikel got asked today. There's going to be a goalkeeper. His name's going to start with R. That's all I care about, right?
RA, he should have said RA.
So,
but yeah, for me, I think the lineup
it is what it is.
Yeah, the usual.
You can see my lineup on Twitter.
I'll put the usual back four. I think me and George differed on the DM, but not because I want Jorginho to start, but just because like after that second half, I don't think Arteta drops him.
I don't. It's a tough one because I think it depends on Declan Rice, right? Like, I mean, he's obviously the difference, but if Declan Rice can't play and you're telling me that Zinchenko's starting, I don't want Zinchenko.
What percentage of like Declan Rice's fitness would you risk? So like say 80%, would you play him?
Yes, 80% is fine. If it crosses 70%, then I wouldn't. But if it's 80%, I would play him because he's not playing at Lens, and he needs a game. Yeah. Like he didn't play for Brentford, so I would play him.
I would leave him at home for Lens. Genuinely, don't even.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably what's going to happen, right? But I mean, beyond that, the one thing I do want to say, if Zinchenko plays, then for me, Mohamed El Neni has to play. If Jorginho plays, then Jakub Kiwior.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well.
So those are the partnerships that I really want to see, because also Jorginho has played, with Kiwior very well, and I think it has to do really with that athleticism that we see.
It's a good point, because the thing is, you need the balance between a build up solution guy and
the defensive duels. It's simply what it is.
Exactly, a physical defender that can invert to the pivot and really.
Also on the ball, Kiwior is a lot more likely to allow Jorginho to be dominant than Zinchenko. Like Jorginho,
I wouldn't change much. Like I would just literally change the right winger. If Saka starts, I still think he will, but Saka, Ødegaard will come in.
Saka has the biggest impact for me on the 11 if he doesn't start, because there's only one person that I'm starting instead of him, and that's Jesus on the right wing, and so that really that kind of changes dynamics, And I actually would keep Martin Ødegaard on the right then, because you need to pair him with a touchline winger. And then I think it depends on kind of fitness, right? But I think it means that I would actually prefer Kai Havertz as the striker and not Eddie.
And the left center mid?
Well, left center mid, I mean, who's free? Who's available at that point?
And this is the thing. I think it will be Eddie and then Kai on the left.
No, I would even put Mohamed El Neni on the left before I would do that. I think for me,
would you play Ødegaard and Emil together with?
I just don't think that Emil and Ødegaard should be playing together. If Emil's fit, I just don't think he'll be fit for Bournemouth.
You can't play Emil and Martin without Declan. It's just you can't do it.
Exactly. So that's what the dependent thing is on me. I think the only way that you play two offensive eights like that is with a Declan Rice. I don't agree that Jorginho can play, and if Jorginho does play, you almost force a Jakub Kiwior and a Ben White situation. So. Look, there's a lot of question marks, but I think you bring the people that traveled and you're going to play them. And I don't ever think that Bukayo Saka was a serious injury.
I mean, it could be a fitness test type thing. Like he just does a fitness test on the day.
Not for Saka. Look, for William Saliba even, I think that's also a little bit playing up. I think that none of these guys are seriously injured. And those that traveled are going to play.
But I also think soon he needs to lose that record. Like, well, he's not going to lose it, but I mean, like, stop
let it end.
Let the consecutive weekly. This is not the time to do it. No, I'm saying let the consecutive weekly games stop. Like after City, Chelsea, really. Like when we get to the Sheffield.
No, but just don't play him at long. Get him a bit of rest.
No. I mean, like in the Prem, there has to be a game.
Oh, in the Prem. Okay, After Chelsea, it's fine.
He's played two seasons and a bit now. He hasn't missed a game. He's played every single game. Even if he hasn't started, he's featured in every single game. So, yeah, for me, at some point, this record needs to disappear.
Yep.
Not yet, but this record does need to disappear, and then let him rest, because we're going to need him later in the season. And if you keep playing him every single week, we're not going to have him later in the season. We barely have him now, even though he has the most assists in the
It makes no sense to, mate, when you've got the amount of center forward options that we've got and you've got Jesus in the squad and you've been willing to use him as a winger more this season. There's zero excuse for not having a little bit more of a replacement. And by the way, there is no better plan B than Jesus right wing on the market. So I don't understand why we've refused to do that. Look, I think a lot of flexibility returns with Trossard and Martinelli back, which I think would happen next week. Like by City, I would imagine. Don't even be surprised if Partey's back for that as well, by the way.
I've been expecting him to be back for a while now. I think that game you need both. Like we
Yeah,
saw,
I do think that we'll play Partey and Rice against.
we saw the best way we've ever matched up to them, really, in that community field. So you can't really walk away from that.
Without Rodri as well. Like,
you have to try as much as
Rodri, De Bruyne, Stones
potentially,
Bernardo Silva also, I think, has a light, but he'll be back for that.
100%.
It's just probably Stones, but I think Stones is serious. I'm not gonna lie, Stones is not somebody.
That's their spine, isn't it? It's
crazy.
Stones and Rodri.
Stones, Rodri, and De Bruyne.
There's zero excuse not to win that game, but that'll come in the preview. Generally, 1 week. We'll maybe end on this when we go. Look, it depends on who's going to be playing, but I'm not going to beat around the bush. I mean, yes, when I have a look at it, our best midfield is Partey, Rice, Ødegaard right now. And if you're going to continue this box midfield where we need to include another 8, whether that's Havertz, Emile Smith-Rowe, Vieira, then I don't see a way that Zinchenko is able to play in this team, because there's still some non-negotiables for me. If you've got Declan Rice, Thomas Partey, and Ødegaard as non-negotiables, and you've got Gabriel, Saliba, Ben White as non-negotiables, and you basically have Martinelli, Saka, Jesus as non-negotiables, the decision has to be, do I play a box midfield? And if I do, no Zinchenko. If I don't play a box midfield, then fine, Zinchenko can play. He forms your box. But if he comes in to form your box midfield, you're going to be pushing Declan Rice in a much higher position. I don't want that. I see no reason to do that when you've got him on that side and he isn't prolific enough to do it. And if you're going to push somebody high, you're going to put Emile there. You're going to put Fabio Vieira there. You're going to put a more offensive 8 high than you will Declan Rice. And so that's what the state of play comes back for me. I don't know about you guys.
I mean, for me, I think it's quite simple. Either Zinchenko plays or Havertz plays. One of the two of them plays. I think, because if you have Zinchenko coming in, you just run back the Community Shield lineup with Zinchenko instead of Timber. Havertz plays 9, and everyone's happy, and then we see Jesus come off the bench maybe, or that kind of thing could happen. But if we're running it if we're playing, you can also play with neither. You can play with Jesus as a 9, play a similar back 4, and then play you have the box. Basically, you can have Kivior either playing there, really go offensively minded, or you can play as George mentioned, Fabio Vieira in there as well, instead of have Declan be the 6. So I just think that it's more of a case of who is the one that you want to be in the offensive mindset of this midfield. I think that's the question. Do you want it to be Declan? Because we have seen moments where Declan and Martinelli have combined well. But I don't want that to be.
I also would like to end on this. The amount of touches that I see Zinchenko do, I want Martin Ødegaard doing. And just broadly, if I get my position in terms of the switch, I finally get my absolute favorite diamond formation. You do have Martin Ødegaard on the left, and you have Declan
favorite
in the
formation?
My favorite version of this formation is having Partey higher and Declan deep and Ødegaard's left. It's not my favorite.
I really appreciate him I really appreciate that, George. Don't let him force you to say something.
It's ridiculous. I mean, he sits there and then he changed, and we changed him, and then he's saying, "I'm still part of the hype."
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
We have video evidence on.
Go on, get the video evidence
of you saying, "I used to be a box, but these two have converted me
into
the pivot."
No. That's not what I said, and you know this. I said my favorite is a diamond. However, in the Premier League, you need physical monsters that can form a pivot.
So that I said would happen.
So you could play a pivot in this league, but my favorite, and still is my favorite, is a diamond.
But I prefer the pivot.
No, don't prefer the pivot. I don't prefer the pivot. I said I'm willing to compromise. I'm willing to compromise.
To win, you want a pivot, right?
No.
To win in the Premier League, can you win?
I said you have to get the amount of work that you need to get through in the Premier League. You could play a pivot, correct?
Not could. You prefer it. You preferred it.
No, I'm not saying
prefer. Not could. It wasn't like just an option.
It was a compromise that I was willing to make.
I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill him.
The main thing.
You know how you don't wish peace to the Queen? I'm gonna kill him.
Find the clip where I say I prefer the pivot. I'll shut up forever. But until then,
I will.
Diamond.
I will, because you said it last year. But anyways, in terms of just broadly speaking, I think that if you move Martin Ødegaard to the left, like the amount of touches that you get from a Zinchenko, I would prefer Martin Ødegaard to get. And then when I have Declan in the 6, I would keep him in the 6. And I wanted my Thomas Partey kind of 8 potential. And at the tip of the diamond, you could have like an Emile Smith-Rowe. That has always been my my manner of how I would like to see a diamond played.
But the other thing is with the Rice and Ødegaard deep is Rice they both have very little angle bias. I think Declan has no angle bias completely, but Martin as well. So you have the ability for them to switch in positions and be more elusive in the build, which is something that it also helps. So that's the main thing as well. Being able to, because we've seen Zinchenko at times, especially against Man United, go into the right DM position, go into the left DM position, Declan change and pick up the ball as well. It allows you to create more angles and it allows you to be a bit more elusive and evade opposition presses because you're not sticking to specific zones and you're able to combine in those specific areas. So having Ødegaard and Rice there gives you a build-up cheat code. And that's what you really need, especially against opposition presses these days.
Yeah, and I'll just talk really quickly, right? Like I'll show this because I keep putting this on Twitter. So when you've got Declan kind of as the lone DM here, I mean the 8 would be Thomas Partey, the 6 in quotes would be kind of Martin Ødegaard, and up top you'd have your second striker, whether that's Havertz or Emile Smith-Rowe. I prefer an Emile Smith-Rowe, but how it kind of looks in terms of the pressing schemes, right? You still got your pivot out deep, and you've got Thomas Partey here, and your attacking midfielder, which is going to be probably Emile Smith-Rowe or Kai Havertz, is allowed to kind of join the press up top. But then Martin Ødegaard in this space is going to have a beautiful relationship with kind of the touchline winger that is Martinelli on that side. And so I think defensively this is fine. We've been operating with a Kai Havertz and a Martin Ødegaard as the 2 8s up top. Just flip the switch, get a winger complement between the two. Having Emile next to Bukayo Saka would be excellent. Having Martin Ødegaard, who's on the left, that can shoot across his body. Receiving, he would have more second phase responsibilities. I just see a very complete formation. If the diamond is your goal, this is my favorite way to build a diamond. But again, I feel like we're getting off topic. And so I will end with...
Colin, what's your prediction?
Yeah, me predicting I'm going to end with a 2-0 for Arsenal. I think our score... I don't know
what I said. I said 2-1, I think. I can't remember. Go back in the stream. I think I said 2-1. I'm going to stick to 2-1. Sorry, George. Go on. Explain your 2-0.
No, there's not much explanation. I just think that, we're going to be trying to conserve energy broadly. And I think that by playing away without Dominic Solanke, I think Bournemouth, again, second time. But Bournemouth are going to struggle to really score themselves. And I think we get a clean sheet because it's away as well. We seem to love those away. So I see a 2-0. And I don't think that we're going to have, with the injuries, a completely fluid front line. So that's the only reason I don't see more. But yeah, I see a 2-0.
You know what? I'm going to go with a 1-0. I think we'll get a goal, and then we'll see what happens. But 1-0. How about that? I'm doing my best Chris impersonation. I'm changing like 15 times. Let's go with 1-0.
Well, that was my answer, 1-0. But I'm going to change because I don't like being the same as anyone else. 3-0.
There we go.
Because the last 3 times we've played them, it's been 3 or more goals in the game. So I'll go 3-0, and I think their defense hasn't been the greatest.
Basically, if we score more than once, then it's time to start wishing for a.
I thought it would have been a 1-0, but I'm hoping Saka can help me out there. Let him get a pen or something. But yeah.
Very interesting. So guys, thank you so much for sticking with us. We hope you enjoyed that longer version of both the review and preview coming up. Thank you so much for your support. Before you guys head out, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. You hit that bell for notifications. You can see all the boys' socials down below at GeorgeV_AFC. Curran, you can find him at CurranBOP, and Chris, you can find him at CKFTBL. We are here, Ball Over Passion, on YouTube or at BOP Footy on X. So thank you so much, everybody, and we hope to catch you guys in the next video. Peace.
Peace.